All right, so welcome everyone. I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium and a tiny nowhere walk, and I run a school called the Ivy League Psychic Academy. We do all the classes online, and this is an international school. It's been around for almost 10 years. And tonight we're doing a free mini class as part of the quarantine series since the pandemic began. I've been putting out one free mini class, possibly two, per week. And tonight is called What's Your Gut Telling You? How to know whether or not deja vus, synchronicities, and your intuition is giving you a positive message to move towards something or a negative message showing you that it's time to pull back. We appreciate donations here to the Academy, so you could do that at Ivy Rivera, psychicmedium.com, and that is in the link below. So feel free to start posting your questions, and we'll be getting to them throughout and again at the end. What is your gut telling you? Why is this so confusing? I think that a lot of people have really lost their way in understanding and having a lack of confidence in trusting their own intuition because society has created a lot of conflict in what exactly the messaging system is saying here. We also have a lot of supposed light-working gurus who are out there giving you wrong messaging about this. So we haven't been trained properly, even by those who proclaim they know what this language is all about. So one of the areas that I see it happening in is with deja vus. Every time we have a deja vu, we've been told that this is amazing, that this is something we really need to invest in and pay attention to, that this is leading us on our path, that it's a really big deal. Anyone involved in that deja vu must have major purpose in our life. Not necessarily. We'll break that down in a minute. We also hear this about synchronicities. So we are told synchronicities are always the universe's way of telling you that you are on the right path. Not necessarily. I'm going to break that one down. And then we see it with signs and symbols. So, people will tell you, well, if you see number patterns, it's guiding you this way or that way. And anytime you see maybe someone's name reoccurring, or you're receiving repeat symbology in any way while you're dreaming or while you're awake, this is a sign that you need to pay more attention to that and go toward it. Not necessarily. So, how do you know the difference? Well, first of all, I think it's really important that we become more mindful. So, the more mindful you are, the better off you're going to be in deciphering what exactly the message is for you and understanding, almost like a storyline being shown to you, what it is that you should do with the situation or the relationship. I would highly recommend that everyone keeps a journal when something like this is happening. Well, it's not happening all the time in a really major way for most people. Most people get things like a deja vu here and there, and usually that's why we treat them like they're such magical experiences. It's sort of like time travel, okay? So it's happening more than you think, but there are probably some that are more dynamic. So let's start with number one. Okay, how do you know? Number one, the longer you have had the vision, the prophecy, the deja vu, or you've seen the pattern in symbology, the higher the likelihood that it is a negative messaging system. It is a warning. So this isn't always the case, but it tends to be that if you've been seeing something and reliving some type of a vision since you were young, or maybe for 15 years or so, that this is a heads up that you need to, when it starts to actually happen in your life, it's no longer just a deja vu moment. I am now living this moment. I've had an accumulation of these deja vus and these visions. I am now here and it is happening. The other person who was always in these deja vus is now actually in the physical form here with me, oh my God, this thing is happening. This must be amazing, right? Not necessarily. It is probably an indicator that you should be watching the other people involved in this vision, the circumstances, and you should be paying attention to how it makes you feel. Now, I'm not a huge fan of emotion. I'm a bigger fan of intuition. But your emotions, if they are giving you any red flags, any warnings, you should really be keeping track of that at that time. Right, so the older it is, it's very possible the more of a warning sign it is. Number 2, we're just going to use the example of a relationship, okay? If a relationship situation has ended, but long afterward, you continue to see signs and symbols, and you have dreams, and you feel that the universe is bringing up this person's name, or it's a repeat system, a pattern of catching your attention, it is very possible that there is unfinished business there. We would probably be talking about a karmic contract of some kind. It is also possible that this person is pulling and tugging or manipulating your energy field. Maybe because they have cords connected to you, maybe not. But energy manipulation really isn't that hard once you learn how to do it. So, the overwhelming sense here may be, okay, well, even though we broke up, I keep thinking of this person. Other people keep, bringing this person's energy up, or this individual's name keeps popping up. All indicators around me lead me to believe I should reach out and see if there's something more. I have the sense of something being unfinished here. That really should not be the case. So when things like this are going on, it is an indicator that you have not completed the lesson process. You want to sit back on your own time and you want to say, how can I convert what was negative about this relationship or this experience into positive energy? How can I bring out all the lessons I was really supposed to learn about my own self-development, spiritual development, what it is that I want in a love partner? Let's use the example if this were a work situation, and now you're feeling compelled to be dragged back into that situation. No. How did this motivate me to become better, to want more, to achieve higher? Whatever it is. Just because something comes up a lot doesn't mean you're supposed to go back to it. Number 3. Things can actually come up quite a lot in deja vus, in synchronicities, in symbology patterns, in your dreams, and they're not negative or positive at all. It is actually a bit of a wake-up call for you that you have entered into what I call a free will zone. There is a huge difference. We did a free mini class on this early on in the pandemic for the quarantine, and it was called Destiny Charted versus Free Will Future. Okay, so you may want to go back and watch that. But what can happen a lot of times is that the universe, your guides, your ancestors, your angels, your higher mind, they're flashing all of these alerts at you that you should be paying attention to somebody or a situation. Not because it's good or bad, light or dark, high or low. It is up to you to cultivate it. It depends on what you're going to do with it. Anything that is destiny charted is fixed. You could see it in Vedic or Western astrology. It is written in the stars. It's part of your life contract. It can't really be manipulated. But things that fall into a free will zone can. They could be manipulated by you, by others, by time, by circumstance. And we often see people losing opportunities or falling into these pits that are dangerous for them because they didn't understand that they were supposed to take action, that they were supposed to take responsibility, that they were supposed to study and analyze and be motivated to create something in that relationship or in that moment of opportunity. And it just falls to the wayside. This comes, again, from not being mindful. This comes from believing that you are here on earth as sort of a victim to circumstance. You're here just riding the tides. Sometimes we are riding the tides. Other times we're supposed to steer the ship. It isn't all one thing. We have free will and destiny charted. So sometimes it's a call to be woke and pay attention and to maximize your prosperity or your protection level. Number 4, when is it super negative? And everyone's telling you, oh, wow, that's amazing. This must be good. Well, let's look at a couple key things. If you have a terrible foreboding feeling, not necessarily about that deja vu or that person or that situation or the symbols, just a terrible foreboding. You ever wake up in the morning and you're like, I feel like I'm going to die. I would rather just go into a cave and end it right now. For whatever reasons, you do not want to get out of bed. You do not want to face the day. That's a terrible foreboding. People who are going through, or not just yet, going through a really difficult time in life can have a depression, an anxiety, and maybe think they have disorders. I cannot prescribe a diagnosis, but it is often a terrible foreboding about something that's about to happen. That's natural. You're supposed to then invest in figuring out what it is and what you should do about it. How you can protect yourself. It is often someone around you who is cheating, lying, pulling deceit, pulling the wool over your eyes. Situations maybe where you want to wear rose-colored glasses, or you've poo-pooed things, or you've said, well, I should stay a while longer because I can. Okay, let's not forget that a lot of light workers, especially empaths, have a really, really high tolerance for inappropriate behavior. Okay, so just because you can stay doesn't mean you should stay. So what we have here is a terrible, heavy feeling, and you may not know where it's coming from. But pay attention if you're having a lot of deja vus, synchronicities, symbology at that time. We can find out psychically where it is. How about the number 7 in particular, following you around? 7 at its core. And we do have a free mini class coming up here on numerology, and then a class at the Academy that will help you if you're a numerology person. Numbers are always talking to you and following you. The number 7 is a call for truth. It is a call for you to open your eyes and ears and dig deeper in a relationship or in a situation to find out what the hidden truth actually is. How about having nightmares? A lot of people think, well, it's something I ate, or, maybe I'm just going through a difficult time. If you're having a lot of nightmares all at once, it's like a concerted effort, probably by your protector guides and your ancestors, to get you to pay attention to those dreams. Keep a dream journal. And look up the symbology there. What are these dreams telling you? It's always an indicator about something that's happening in your life when it comes out of the blue like that. And it's usually in conjunction with, again, deja vu, symbols, things like this. Nothing should ever take us off guard if we're mindful on a regular basis. How about hearing your name? Now, this is a common misconception. People think, well, if I am hearing my name being called, or someone's yelling my name at me, or is creepily kind of whispering my name and there's no one there, they think they have a paranormal problem or that their house is now haunted. Maybe not. We have a lot of protectors on the other side, and they're not all ancestors. It may not be someone you recognize, or you can get a temporary protector guide who steps in, who you might not recognize, but as they're calling your name, it is a wake-up call to pay attention to what's going on around you. You may also have a spirit shouting in your face as you doze off at night or when you wake up. That's when the veil is thinnest between the two worlds. That's when it's easiest to hear from the spirit world. We may also get it between 3 and 5:30 in the morning, the haunting hour. So having somebody up in your face again, yelling your name, or causing what may seem like nightmares. We often think that we are under some type of paranormal attack, and we're not. It's a spirit trying to protect us from something that's going on that we're not paying attention to. Okay, somebody may be duping you. There are a million more, okay, but we don't have time to get into all of them today. So I think at this point we'll move on to some questions, but basically anything really uncomfortable for you could be a bit of a wake-up call. Paul, what questions or comments do we have?
Just coming off of what you just said, Lana said that at her old job, someone used to whisper her name for years. She said it wasn't creepy, and she believes it was a guide of hers.
Very good.
Yeah, we have some good ones here. A couple matched up.
Okay.
The Silly Rabbit and Rick. Rick was about his friend Mike, who was seeing the numbers 1111 and 111, and the Silly Rabbit is getting similar. She said, so many synchronicities every day, and she listed a bunch of different numbers. It said, sometimes I get a bit worried because I'm not sure if it means I'm on the right path or to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why we're doing this. Exactly. So we have the free mini class, Intro to Numerology, Sunday, September 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube with our numerology teacher here at the Ivy League Psychic Academy, Danny Johnson. So it'll be she and I breaking down basic numerology, preparing for a bigger class, which is a 4-week training course on numerology that starts when, Paul?
September 24th.
September 24th, and that's obviously going to be a paid course, 4 weeks. And Paul, if you could put that in the comments below and maybe in the description too. So, you're going to have to learn the numbers specifically what they mean, because if you were to Google them, you would get quite a few different interpretations. But what I like to do with numbers is to look through Google at basic numerology, old school numerology, and sometimes I will compare it to angel numbers or interpretations on what people think, angels are saying through numbers, because that can also happen. But I also believe that certain people are numerology people in the same way that other people are maybe tarot people or channelers, mediumship people. Did I say astrology? There's just a lot of history there. And what that can mean is that from your previous lives, you worked with that language and you carried it in to this life with you. People that are numerology people may also see a lot of births and deaths all at the same time. A lot of dates in your life always seem to be matching up, or new people that you meet that are significant players in your life. All the dates are the same. So patterns like that can mean that this is a specific language you really need to learn. So hope to see you there for those classes. But the number one, we were just talking about this afternoon because Polly's getting it too. And when you see a lot of people getting the same numbers all at once, could be due to planetary movement. Number one is typically considered almost like a lottery aspect. Wow, great, amazing things are going to happen for you. Make a wish. This is big. Not necessarily. It's actually about opportunity, but not without a lot of hard work. So technically that falls into a free will zone. So there's some major opportunity available to your friend Mike or whatever, who really needs to identify where that is and start putting in that intensive labor, because it's going to pay out like times 10. What are the other numbers that came up?
We had 1212, 1222, 444. Bernadette had said 555.
I was just going to say 5. I was like, who said 5? Bernadette, you and I, some kind of mojo here, lady. Okay, so I want to just, I'm not going to go over all those, but I will say that 5 is major change in a bunch of different areas in your life. Okay, so that's transition in a big way. Not to say you won't recognize your life in about a year, but probably it's going to have major improvements. Now, is there a ton of really, really hard work you have to do with that? Probably not as much as kind of being willing to let stuff go. Okay, that's not showing fruit. Number 4, for example, is your guides, your angels, your ancestors, all coming in and really supporting you in a major way with an area of your life that you're hoping to see advancement or change in. So, we won't get into all of them, but yeah, there are a few. What other questions or comments?
Rick said, thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
Bernadette had said that this is like psychology class.
Yeah.
Dr. Rivera is in. And then said she was going to take the numerology class because numbers are all over her like saran wrap.
Ooh, very interesting.
Which is very fun. Yeah, that's going to be a great class.
It is. I'm excited.
So speaking of Bernadette, she said she's talking about a friend. And her instinct says he's a good person. Her friends seem to be puzzled by him and his behavior. But her instinct says there's good in him. Is it to be trusted? Said she's often puzzled at times by his behavior, but other times she's certain he's a kindred spirit. They have common interests and almost finish each other's sentences.
Well, that was one of the things that I wanted to use as an example today. I had a 14-year-long deja vu. So it had originally been triggered by a vision when I was in my 20s, and then it took until I was, in my late 30s for this thing to occur. And that was constant deja vus where I would tap back into that vision. I saw this person that I was going to be romantically involved with. He had a white truck. It was specifically a white Dodge Ram. He was wearing a plaid shirt. There was a lot of laughter between the two of us. We were sharing almost like we were two kids. I felt like I was a teenager again. So there was a flow in dialogue that could easily confuse the safety level because it felt natural. Now that connection was real, but I really should not have let my guard down. And there was a lot of talk of a red barn. Well, the first time I met him, there was the Dodge Ram, there was the plaid shirt, there was this dialogue. I went and I had picked him up for whatever reasons for, our first date, and there was the red barn at what he said was his house. This guy ended up being a huge liar. That he didn't even live there, okay? So that just goes, that was the first and really the last lie I caught him in, lying about crazy things. And so I think that when there's questionable behavior that we want to overlook, because we do feel like we're kindred spirits, it is very possible that you could have a soulmate connection or a karmic contract with someone and have chords, which make it more dynamic, and have past life connection and work to do together, but it really ends up being about lessons. Okay, lessons, not quite as romantic as what we would hope. We do have a class coming up called Karma Contracts and Past Lives. Is that this Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have that class coming up. It's a video up on the website, but I want to redo it. So you guys can, reserve your seats for that. But we break this type of thing down there even more. I would say this, that you need to ask the real questions. And everything that your friends and everything that you feel is questionable, I want you to start being like a private investigator. I want you to start piecing together and sitting with that for like 10 minutes at a time and saying, what is this really showing me? One of the things I also like to do is to sit down with someone who seems to be giving me conflicting energy. I just go in for about 10 to 15 minutes and I say, my higher mind wants to talk with your higher mind. And I start paying attention to what's really going on there with that energy. Sometimes you find a whole lot, sometimes you don't find much, but something to be careful about.
We have a question from Handsome Guy 1980 who's asking if Paul makes you feel like a teenager too.
He does. Are you Handsome Guy 1980?
I don't know. You tell me.
Absolutely. But I would say this too, and I've noticed a pattern where, I was able to predict with any of my love partners whether there was soulmate connection, there was karmic contracts. And I would always go and get a synchronicity chart if I thought this was someone I was supposed to take seriously. And so my astrologer would be able to say whether or not that was, shown in the stars. And a lot of times it was. But as good as some of those relationships felt, there was always sort of an inability to completely let my guard down. And that is the major difference here with Paulie, is that everything I've ever seen was clean. And it's not a feeling of, not to say he doesn't excite me and thrill me beyond belief, but there is a sense of peace and calm and being rooted and centered. It's never frantic or questionable energy, and that's something we need to work harder at finding, not just the super dynamic stuff, because that could just be written in the planets.
We have one from Shalon who asks, how do I make the distinction between an energy cord and unfinished business?
Well, I would take that class. It's kind of a long explanation. Take the Karma Contracts and Past Lives class next week, or just go get the video download from the website. How can you tell the difference between the cords and the unfinished business? She said, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have another class called Relationships, Boundaries, and Cord Cutting. That's also up on the website. You can get that video download. That has more to do with the cords. And when we're talking about cords, we're talking about not being able to get rid of someone. Now, this could be a parent, this could be a sibling, this could be a love partner. This could be anyone that you have a soulmate contract with, meaning you had work to do together in this life, and because of that, you have cords. Well, these cords allow for the other person to pull and tug at you, voluntarily, involuntarily, and they will especially do that at night, especially if they're not getting a response out of you that they want in the waking hours. They may really manipulate your dream state to suck you back in some way. So cords are really tricky. Unfinished business, on the other hand, that could break down into a couple different categories. Karmic contracts, a little bit of debt, some lessons. It doesn't necessarily equate to being as big of a deal or as manipulative. It could be more pesky, but kind of haunting. Both are definitely haunting, though. Yeah. I do want to just interrupt here before I forget what I'm saying, so you guys keep posting your questions. We're going to try to get to all of them, but I wanted to say, what can you do? So what can you do to protect yourself? What can you do to take advantage of those big opportunities? How can you know the difference between the two? And I think that it's good to have a tool. Now, a lot of people jump into using a tool like tarot or pendulums or the rods. This is not great. If you don't know the language of psychic mediumship, or if you have not been using a trustworthy tool or channeling specifically like your guides or your ancestors, don't go to a tool. It can steer you wrong, and it can actually be very dangerous. And don't be helping other people through a tool if you're not properly trained in it. However, I have a couple tools that I keep around me at all times. I'm surprised it hasn't gone off yet. I have a Cherokee drum that my ancestors communicate with me through. And they will, this drum all the time, sometimes you may hear it on here, it just drums on its own. And that is to let me know that there's something I need to pay attention to. I also have my great-grandmother's doll from when I was 6 years old and she passed. That doll will wind itself and somehow its head will turn. We have a video up here on YouTube of it. It's called the Mary doll. And when the doll is looking down, or the face goes gray, or it starts to play, I know something really major is going to happen in my life. So you should really find a tool and work with your guides and your ancestors on that to make sure that those are the spirits that you're channeling, and that they are really clearly communicating with you one way or another. Okay, so that's definitely one of the things you do. Again, being mindful. I would also recommend sitting for 10 minutes every morning with your guides and asking them if there are any pitfalls you need to watch out for that day. Do they have any warnings for you? And how can you maximize your prosperity on that day? And then sit quietly and let them show you what's going to come up. Okay. I would also say don't be dramatic, okay? Drama mamas and all of the, self-fulfilling prophecies. It reminds me of moms who worry about their kids. They talk negative. It's like, God, cool it. Like, we need to just kind of calm down about things. Don't act like everything is a paranormal attack. Don't think of everything as being like a major sign in a positive or negative way. Just try to be more analytical about everything. Calm, cool, centered, relaxed. Trust in yourself. Trust in your intuition and your gut. And know that what you can't catch on your own, Spirit's going to give you. Okay? So remain at peace and still. And know that you already have all of these answers. It is inside you. You don't need to be looking out and looking at other people and being dramatic about it. Okay, so those are just a couple key things that you could do that will help a lot on a daily basis. We have other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shalon said thank you for those classes.
Welcome.
And Bernadette for the advice. Had a bit here. Thank you. You have such insight. She said that the sense of peace in the relationship really helps me to think about this in the way you suggest. Thank you again. And Rick said that he's excited for numerology. The mediumship curriculum through the Academy has been wonderful.
Love it.
And I second that. And we have a question here from Mandy.
Okay.
Says, I have these random moments where suddenly everything seems like it's different. Not specific, but everything feels slightly different. Is this part of it, or is this just me?
Well, it could be, but we have something called the ultradian cycle, and they used to think scientifically, medically, research, they were connecting it more to people who had like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, and then they realized in more recent years that this seems to be something everybody does. I think it's highly connected to shifting to the right side of your brain, which is where I train you to go in the classes to access psychic, empathic, mediumistic information. So what can happen with the ultradian cycle is that every approximately an hour and a half, we shift automatically to the right side of our brains for about 20 minutes. So your your breathing will change. You might get sort of sleepy. Your vision can be off a little bit. Sometimes people feel like their hearing is off. And it's sort of like watching everything around you change. Okay, so if you've ever done anything altering, it's sort of like entering that zone, and then all of a sudden it just kind of wraps up and you come back down, and it's 20 minutes. So it could just be that. But you want to, whenever you enter into that, you definitely want to pay attention to what you're getting during that time. This is when most people, even if you're at work, you don't have to work at tapping into the right side. It's happening for you. So insight is coming to you then that is valuable. Okay. Well, guys, it was a pleasure to have you here. We will see you for the next one, which is going to be Our Fear of Dying. Yeesh. Okay, I am looking forward to that, though, actually. Thursday, September 10th. If you want to catch, we just updated our death coaching video. If you are dealing with passing loved one, deceased loved ones that you want to communicate with more, or if you want to get a little jump start on finding peace with this, the death coaching video is now up, and the full training course is going up on the website for purchase in 3 weeks. All right, and your horoscopes are also up. They went up about 2 days ago, so check them out here on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Polly.